The Argentinian Senate debates and votes on Thursday the agreement reached between the government and the International Monetary Fund to refinance the debt with the international organization. The Russian Defense Ministry reported advances on the special military operation in Ukraine. And in Japan, authorities confirmed 4 people dead and 194 resulted injured after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of the Fukushima prefecture. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor Dio Martin from the Tulsa studios in Havana. We begin with the news. The Argentinian Senate debates and votes on Thursday the agreement reached between the government and the International Monetary Fund to refinance the debt with the international organization. The session is scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, time of that country. The debate counts with the support of the opposition bench. The Frente de Todos is confident that the bill will obtain a broad majority. According to the Senate's internal regulations, the initiative must be brought to the floor next week when one of the payments to the international organization is due. In response, social organizations have announced that they will mobilize in front of the Senate to express their rejection to the agreement and to demand an increase in social policies in the midst of growing inflation. The spiral of violence continues in Colombia as a social leader was murdered on Wednesday in the island of San Andres, making it the 41st murder of an activist so far this year. According to the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace in La Paz, the victim was identified as Fabian Perez. Perez was a recognized leader of the Raizal and Creole culture as well as a musician. Gunmen surprised Perez while he was in his home and shot him down there. The killing unleashed a great mobilization of citizens in rejection of the episode of violence. According to La Paz, 41 social leaders and human rights defenders have been murdered so far this year, and 1,327 since the signing of the peace accords. In Brazil, popular movements will take to the streets on Thursday in at least 16 cities to protest against the risk of evictions. The campaign, called Zero Evictions, seeks to fight for the extension of the argument of non-compliance with the fundamental precept granted in June 2021 by the Federal Supreme Court. This measure, in place until March 2022, protected thousands of rural and urban families during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a report published by the organization, over 132,000 families are currently threatened with eviction in Brazil. This is a 602% increase since the beginning of the pandemic. The death toll of the landslide occurred last Tuesday in northern Peru rose to 4. Among the fatalities, there is a 1-month-old baby girl. This according to the latest report issued Wednesday by the fire department in the area. The first confirmed victim was a 68-year-old man, and then the rescue workers found the bodies of a 38-year-old man clinched to a baby among the debris of a marketplace. And finally, they recovered the body of a 60-year-old man trapped in his room. The authorities continue to search for 4 other people reported missing. Meanwhile, the Peruvian President Pedro Castillo traveled to the affected town to show his support for the victims and declared the Retamas town as a disaster area, pledging government support for the affected families. As we were saying, Peruvian President Pedro Castillo visited the northern town of Retamas, recently affected by a landslide in Peru. The natural disaster buried dozens of homes and trapped at least 15 people. The president invited the residents to register in the municipal census so as to leave the risky area and relocate elsewhere. The Retamas Commissioner, Lieutenant Carlos Alberto Valderrama, indicated that police and firefighters are working to remove debris and to locate the missing persons. Retamas was hit by another landslide back in 2009 that killed at least 13 people, including 1 child.
I'm inviting from here the people of Retama so that they make an effort to register and try to leave this area. It is a very risky area where there are many landslides. They are living on the river. I understand who, due to mining influence, have come here to seek better opportunities for their families.
And in Honduras, a resolution on former President Juan Orlando Hernandez's extradition to the United States was approved. The designated judge Edwin Ortez decided to grant the extradition of former President Juan Orlando Hernandez to the United States, where he will be tried for 3 charges linking him to organized crime. The defense claimed that the extradition treaty signed between the United States and Honduras establishes that the state should have presented evidence, documents, photographs, audios, and videos and transactions to support such demand. After the hearing for the presentation and examination of evidence that lasted for 11 hours, the judge approved the extradition of former President Hernandez, whose defense has 3 days since Wednesday to file for an appeal that would delay the process for another 2 weeks. Now, as for the wife of former President Hernandez, Ana Garcia, well, she denounced on the Twitter the premature publication of the sentence against Juan Orlando Hernandez. The former First Lady stated, "One more violation of the rights of my husband, Juan Orlando. The hearing has not concluded and the media has already leaked the supposed determination of the judge." And now we stay in Central America. Guatemala's Congress tabled on Tuesday a controversial law passed a week ago aimed to fight abortion and minority groups who are inconsistent with Christian morality, as it said. Guatemalan deputies reversed the so-called Law for the Protection of Life and Family after opposition from several social and international sectors. The decision was taken on Tuesday with 119 votes out of a total of 160 deputies, including a large part of those who had approved the law on March 8th. Initiative 5272 increased from 5 to 50 years the prison sentences for women who abort. It also prohibited the teaching of sexual diversity in educational institutions and was against egalitarian marriage. The remains of Armando Linares, the 8th journalist to be murdered so far this year, were laid to rest in the Mexican city of Morelia. Now, relatives, colleagues, and loved ones bid farewell to the remains of the director of Monitor Michoacán, who was shot to death in front of his children at his residence on Tuesday in the municipality of Zitácuaro. Hundreds of journalists took to the streets to protest, carrying signs that read, "No more murders." According to Reporters Without Borders, 8 journalists have been murdered so far this year in Mexico, one of the most dangerous countries for the press, with close to 150 homicides in the last 22 years. May he rest in peace. We'll take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hi, and welcome back to From the South. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Igor Konashenkov reported today that Russian combat aircrafts destroyed 11 Ukrainian anti-aircraft missile systems, including an S-300 division. He also said that during the attack on 46 Ukrainian military installations, a multiple rocket launcher, 3 command posts, an electronic warfare station, 7 ammunition and military equipment warehouses were also destroyed. Meanwhile, in its daily report, the Russian military high command noted that the Russian Space Forces, Air Forces shot down 2 helicopters and 12 unmanned aerial vehicles in the last 24 hours. The Russian Ministry of Defense continues to study documents received from employees of Ukrainian laboratories on the implementation of military biological programs by the United States and its NATO allies on the territory of Ukraine, he added.
Within the American project, the Kharkov Institute of Veterinary Medicine studied wild birds as a means of transmissions of highly pathogenic avian influenza. At the same time, the conditions under which transmission processes can become uncontrollable, cause economic damage, and create food safety risks were assessed. New documents will be presented on the export of a large amount of human biomaterials from the territory of Ukraine to the United Kingdom and other European countries.
Russia strongly condemned the statements of the President of the United States, Joe Biden, in relation to his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, whom he called a war criminal. The Kremlin described as unacceptable and inexcusable rhetoric the words of the heads of the White House, who during the same day had announced a new package of military assistance to Ukraine for a total value of $800 million. Biden referred to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, as he was about to leave an event, but decided to turn back to reporters to reply affirmatively to the question of whether he considered his counterpart a war criminal. Russian authorities accused members of right-wing militias and the Ukrainian army for the shelling of a theater in the town of Mariupol. Moscow accused elements of the ultra-nationalist Azov battalion of perpetrating the attack on the facility, which served as a shelter for civilians displaced by the conflict. Regarding this, Russian military authorities emphasized that no operations against ground targets were carried out in Mariupol for the present day. Officials denounced that the Kiev government is trying to carry out genocide against the Russian-speaking population. It also claimed the use of civilians as human shields by Ukrainian forces in battlefronts in the localities of Kharkiv, Sumy, Chernihiv, and the capital. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his United Arab Emirates counterpart held a news conference in Moscow after their talks on the situation in Ukraine. Both diplomats discussed the global energy supplies and the essential goods market, as well as the importance of energy and food stability for the global economy. Russia's special military operation in Ukraine has drawn a raft of Western sanctions and disrupted global energy markets, putting a spotlight on Gulf energy exporters such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Both nations have so far resisted United States' pleas to use their spare production capacity to help contain oil prices, saying they are committed to an OPEC pact under the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries Alliance, which includes Russia. And Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov said Thursday that the majority of refugees from Mariupol choose roads leading to the Russian Federation.
An important event took place yesterday after long days when the Ukrainian authorities didn't want to cooperate in the evacuation of people, including those from Mariupol. We finally managed to get 33,000 people out of this city, the vast majority of whom choose routes leading to the Russian Federation.
China tagged the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization as culprits for the ongoing war in Ukraine a day after U.S. President Joe Biden labeled his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin a war criminal for the first time.
The key to solving the Ukraine crisis lies in the hands of the United States and NATO. We hope that the United States and NATO, as the culprits of the crisis, can reflect on their roles in the Ukraine crisis, take up their due responsibilities, and make practical actions to ease the situation and solve the problem in order to bring an early resolution to the conflict in Ukraine. China's position is clear and above board, objective and fair, but the positions of the United States and NATO, including the positions of certain media outlets, are obviously hypocritical. In particular, it reminds me of the racist tendencies that have emerged in some Western media reports.
South Korea reported over 400,000 new coronavirus cases on Wednesday, a new record as the country continues to ease restrictions despite the Omicron-fueled wave of infections. Health authorities said 400,741 cases were recorded, the country's highest daily figure since the pandemic began 2 years ago. Senior health official Son Young-rae said they believed they were nearing the peak of the Omicron wave. The vast majority of South Korea's eligible population has been vaccinated and boosted, and despite the record number of infections in the country of 52 million people, death rates remain very low. The country has continued to relax social distancing rules under pressure from small businesses and self-employed Koreans, but they still enforce an 11 p.m. curfew for businesses and 6-person limit for private gatherings. And they will be lifting mandatory quarantine on arrival for fully vaccinated tourists as of March 21st. China freed up hospital beds after authorities officially reported thousands of new cases from an Omicron-led coronavirus outbreak on Wednesday. COVID-19 cases in the Asian country have jumped from an average of 100 daily 3 weeks ago to more than 1,000 per day during the last 7 days. China's National Health Commission said Tuesday that mildly infected patients could isolate at a central quarantine facility in order to ease pressure on hospitals over fear of looming bed shortages. China had largely kept the disease under control after it had reported the first virus outbreak in the city of Wuhan in late 2019. We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back. In Japan, authorities confirmed 4 people died and 194 resulted injured after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of Fukushima Prefecture. The Meteorological Agency of Japan reported that the earthquake occurred at 11:36 p.m. local time off the coast of Fukushima and Yagi, where the tsunami warning was activated due to the presence of waves of 20 and 30 meters, but it was later deactivated. Authorities said the weather phenomenon caused a power outage to 160,000 homes, caused damages to several roads in Yagi, and the collapse of a residential building in Fukushima. The agency also alerted citizens of the possibility of aftershocks in the coming hours.
Along with this earthquake, a tsunami warning was announced on the coast of Miyagi Prefecture and Fukushima, but it has already been lifted. Regarding the damage to the nuclear facilities, it has been reported that the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, the Fukushima Daini nuclear power plant, and Onagawa nuclear power plant have no air abnormalities in the plant data at this time. Regarding human damage, we have received reports of 4 dead and 107 injured, and the relationship with disasters.
53 people died in the center and north of Mozambique due to the tropical hurricane Gombe, which hit the country last Friday. Initial reports listed 22 people dead, but another 31 bodies were found in Lunga on the Indian Ocean coast, an area left cut off by road due to all the debris left by the storm. Search and rescue operations continued, so the number of fatalities could rise. According to more recent reports, 400,175 people have been affected by the storm. Now, Yemen called for economic aid to address the humanitarian crisis in the country after more than 7 years of war. Yemen's Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation said it hopes to boost collaboration with regional and international financial institutions to seek more support for the country's reconstruction and recovery programs. It also reported earlier this year that the conflict caused economic losses of $126 billion and inflation reached record levels, depreciating the national currency by more than 300%. Likewise, the domestic product fell by more than half during the period 2014 to 2020 because of the war itself. Authorities in Mali banned 2 French news media outlets, alleging that they are releasing false information about the alleged involvement of the Malian military in human rights violations. The Foreign Ministry said in a communique issued Wednesday night, quote-unquote, the government of the Republic of Mali categorically rejects such false accusations against the brave Malian armed forces and enforces a press ban on the shortwave broadcasts of RFI and FM and on France 24 TV channel in accordance with Mali's current laws and regulations. A court in Cambodia on Thursday convicted 21 people of treason and related charges for their nonviolent political opposition to the government several years ago. Now, relatives and other supporters of the defendants gathered outside the court. Those convicted by Phnom Penh Municipal Court included 7 exiled leaders of the disbanded Cambodian National Rescue Party, each of whom received 10-year prison terms. They included party co-founder Sam Rainsy, who has been in exile since 2016, to avoid serving prison sentences for defamation and other charges. Another 13 defendants who were convicted were ordinary party supporters, each sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, reduced by the court to 3 years and 8 months.
This is just another day of injustice here in Cambodia. It's the norm now. Injustice is the norm. The suffering of these innocent people, their family members, you see in their faces the suffering, waiting for their loved ones to be freed. Loved ones who are innocent, they are political prisoners, and they have only been exercising their political rights as politicians, as supporters of politics.
China's Red Cross Society donated a shipment of 130 metric tons of wheat flour to its Afghan counterpart, the Afghan Red Crescent Society, in an effort to help the country tide over the current severe food crisis. The handover ceremony was held on Wednesday at the headquarters of the Afghan Red Crescent Society. Chinese ambassador to Afghanistan Wang Yu pledged China's continued support to Afghanistan in providing them with humanitarian assistance and helping them rebuild their economy. He also urged for the return of Afghan assets frozen abroad. Meanwhile, the head of the Afghan Red Crescent Society colleagues thanked China for previous large donatives of medical supplies and other necessities which have helped the Afghan people in these distressful times. He said China has been a longtime friend to Afghanistan.
The Afghan Red Crescent Society thanks the Red Cross Society of China and the Chinese people who have been helping and supporting the Afghan Red Crescent Society and the Afghan people. The Afghan people are currently facing difficulties. We hope to continue receiving help and support.
An Emirati cargo transporter ship sank 50 kilometers from the port of Vazaluya, and a search operation has been launched to rescue its 30 crew members. Because of the unfavorable weather and high winds, the ship sank before 3 rescue vessels could reach its location. Emergency teams have been able to rescue 16 of the ship's crew. The crisis management director for the Bushehr province expressed that the search for the other 14 crew members is continuing. Now, Iran's weather service had put out a red alert on Wednesday for high winds and heavy seas in the waters off Vazaluya, as well as a port at the town of Vazaluya is a major petrochemical center on the Gulf Coast southeast of the city of Bushehr. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at Tulsa English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Tulsa English, I'm Dio Martin. Thanks for watching.